Hello people, this is SelfTurds, and in this video we'll learn how to convert an existing Express app which is written as a promise-based application to a new ExpressJS app which follows Async Await Paradigm. So what does Async Await do? It gives a synchronous feeling to your code, which means previously if you were writing promises and one promise was inside other, then it was very difficult to write the code, and while debugging also it was very difficult. But with the new paradigm of async await, if we follow that one, then it becomes very easy and it looks like a synchronous programming, but under the hood it is a asynchronous programming. So it will feel like that you are doing a asynchronous coding, but nodejs will handle for you all the difficulties to make it asynchronous. So we'll look to an existing Express app which is written as a promise-based application. So this is my folder in which there is a async await express REST API folder. I'll go inside this particular folder, and here you can see this is a nodejs application. So this is nodejs application because there's a package.json. So if I open this particular folder in Vim, and if I open my node tree, then you can see these are the files that are present, and this is the node module that is present. So I'll show you the package.json file. So this is the similar package.json file you must have seen in so many nodejs application. Now this is the index.js file which is the entry point of our application, and you can see here it uses Express as its module to create REST server. It uses body parser, it uses CORS for accepting cross-domain request. There is a server port that we have defined, and this port is 5000 because we'll start our server at this particular port. So you can see here the server port is 5000 and app.listen is getting started at server port. So 5000 is the port that we are using, and then there is a task controller that we have written, and the task controller is present here. Now we have applied some middlewares to it, that is body parser middleware, and it parses JSON which is given to your request. Now we have defined here two routes, that is app.get, and this is API version 1.0/task, and app.post to create a task, that is API version 1 task. And these two routes are calling the function get task and create task from our task controller.js. So this is a basic REST application that you have designed previously. So I'll open this file first, task controller, and you can see here this is the file. So there are two functions, get task and create task, and inside the get task function you can see here it accepts three parameter, request, response, next, and then it calls. I have just written two functions here which mimics that there is some database call. So there's fetch task from database and create task in database. So I'm just trying to show you that this can behave as a real application, that this fetch task from database is calling to database, and I have given here set timeout so that you will get a response after 2 seconds. And same way create task in database has a set timeout function, and this will give you the response in 2 seconds. So I'll make you understand the flow of this application. So for that, what I'll do, I'll go to this particular line here, app.get. So when the requested hit is hit to this particular resource, then the task controller file with get task function gets activated. So if you see the get task function, then you can see here this is the get task, the request comes here and it calls this function that is fetch task from database, and then it follows the promise paradigm because fetch task from database returns a promise. You can see here a promise is getting returned here, and same way this particular function that is get task is calling that promise and then and catch. These things look something ugly because this is what asynchronous programming means. You have to write this because this is asynchronous programming. So this doesn't look like a synchronous coding, because if there are more promise calls here, if you are calling more API, then it becomes very difficult. So this will be solved by our async await paradigm. So same is the create task function. There is a post API, and if you hit that post API, then it comes to that create task, and this is a function which is getting called create task in database. And if I'll show you this create task in database, then this function will do what? This function will, you can come here, and this function will, this is just mimicking that it is creating a task in database and it is returning a message of task successfully created. Now we'll open our postman and we'll see these two particular APIs. So this is the first API, that is get, and you can see here HTTP localhost 5000 API version 1.0 task. If I send then it will take, oh okay, sorry, I have not started the server, so I'll start the server here and I'll say node index.js. So this is saying that server is listening at port 5000. Now I'll go to my postman and I'll hit send, and after 2 seconds you will get a response that is, this is task 1 created by John Doe, because we have hard coded it. So we have hard coded it here. You can see here, this is the hard coding message, this is task 1 and created by John Doe. Same way, if we say post and if I say send, then after 2 seconds you will get the response. Okay, so this is fine. So this is an existing Express application, so I'm just giving a demo that this is a REST application, and now we want to convert this into Async Await Paradigm, and you'll see how beautifully we'll convert. So the first thing that you need to convert here is what? You need to call this middleware. So this is a middleware in terms of Express. So we have to convert this middleware as a async function. So what we'll write? We'll first do this. So we'll say async, and then we'll follow the arrow based function. So this async will accept what request, what things as parameter, that is request, response and next. So these are the parameter that this particular function will accept, and what it will do, it will inside this we'll call this task controller get task function. So this is task controller get task function, and this is the async function that accepts request, response and next. And this is inside this particular arrow function we are returning what? This. We are returning task controller, and we are giving the parameter here as request, response and then next. So this is the one thing that you need to change in your application, that all the routes should be converted like this. So previously the route was calling only task controller.get task, but you need to convert that into a async function, and from where we need to return this particular task controller.get task, and we need to inject request, response and next. So the first conversion is this, and the second conversion is what? We'll go to task controller. So I'll open task controller. This is my task controller. You can see here task controller.js, and inside get task, first we need to convert this particular function. So we'll say async So this is a async function, and inside async only we can write await. So if this is not a async function, this function is not async, then inside this async function we cannot write await. So you have to keep in mind that you can write await inside a async function. Now await can be called on a promise or on a async function. So two things you need to keep in mind. The first thing is what? If you are writing await, then it should be inside a async function, and await can be called on a promise or it can be called on another async function. So since my fetch task from database, this function is returning a promise. So you can see here, this is returning a promise, return new promise. So what I can do, I can just call await on it. So I'll delete these lines first so that it is visible from top. Okay, so this function is returning a promise, so I can directly call a await. So I'll remove these things. I will delete all these things, the promise part, and I'll say where result equal to await. Okay, and this is the await call. Now you need to keep in mind that if you're calling a await function, then you need to do some error handling, and that can be done by what? That can be done by try and catch block. So we'll write a try and catch block here. So we'll write a try and catch block, and we'll try to put this particular call, which is try, which is some suspicious code that it can throw some error inside our try block. So inside try block we have written this particular fetch task from database, and then what we'll do, we'll set the response status. Response status as what? 200. So we'll say the response status as 200, and then we'll do what? Return response.json and then the result. Okay, so now you can see this code has been beautifully converted into a synchronous like code. Okay, and if there is error, then what we need to do, we need to do response.json, response.status, we need to explicitly set it, and that will be equal to what? 500, and then response.json will be what? It will be error. So this is error, and here we'll convert that to error. Okay, so we are done with the conversion of this particular function to async function. So we have managed to change the route of getting the task as a async await paradigm. So you can see here we have changed, here we have converted the middleware to async function, we have injected request, response and next, and then we have called this task controller with request, response and next. And here also what we have done, we have made this function as async because we can call a await keyword, or we can use await keyword only inside async, and await can be called on a promise. So we'll test this one. So what we'll do, we'll restart our server, and then we'll go to this particular browser, this postman, and since we have converted the get route to async await one, so we'll hit send, and after 2 seconds I think we'll get the response. So it is working fine. So we have changed the promise based application to the async await based application. So same way what we'll do, we'll change this post one. So for changing post one, what we need to do, first we need to type the async command, and then we need to write the arrow function, request, response, and then next, and then we'll give the arrow function, and inside arrow function we'll call this function which we were calling previously, the controller. So we'll say return, and then what, task controller, and then inside task controller we'll call the create task, and we'll inject response, request, response and next. So we have successfully saved it, and now what we need to do, we need to change this task controller, because see this code, you can see this code and this code which looks beautiful and which is easy to debug. This one is easy to debug because it is synchronous kind of code. So if there are multiple promises, then you can write one by one, in one line this, in second line that, and it is easy to understand. Same way what we'll do, we'll remove all this promise thing, and what we'll do, we'll say variable result equal to create task in database, and then we'll say what, response dot status equal to what, it will be equal to 200 if it is successful, and return what, response.json and the result. So we need to encapsulate this particular code inside try block. So I'll put this code inside try block, and if there is an error, if error is thrown, then it will go to catch block. So inside catch block we'll catch the error, and then what we'll do, we'll again set the status and return the response. So we'll set the status as what, 500. So we are setting the status as 500, and we'll send the error in response. So this is completed. This function has also been changed into a async await function. No, one thing is missing here. We have missed async because we are trying to call await, and also we have missed await. So we are trying to call this await inside a function, so it will not work. So I'll show you once, it will give me error. So you can see a result await create task in database. Await is only valid inside a async function. So this has given me error during starting of the server only. So what I'll say, async, and then I'll restart the server. So node index.js, and this time what I'll do, I'll try to create a task, and after 2 seconds I'll get a response that task successfully created, and it's a success. So you can see how beautifully we have converted an existing promise based code which was hard to read. I have only shown you one promise, that your code contains only a single promise, but your code may contain, there may be a complex logic, and your code may contain more than 5 to 6 promises. So that will become very difficult for you to debug, and that is not looking good also as a code. So you need to convert all your Express applications which are using promises to async and await. So this was all about this video. Hope you like my channel, and if you like this video, then please subscribe to my channel, and please share these videos with other developers. Thank you.